Afternoon, everyone. So, Trump's trade war's back on the agenda again. He's been warbling his way through his plan now. So before I go over what we actually know about, because if you remember back in April, we had the Liberation Day tariffs where he whacked tariffs on everyone. But he particularly whacked them on like 47 markets, stroke countries. And so it's worth looking at, but I just want to show you first of all. So there was some confusion, and a journalist asked Trump whether because the idea is, so he said he was going to get a load of trade deals, 90 deals in 90 days, right? He hasn't got them. He's got two. One of them's with the UK, which was one of the countries even he accepted America has a trade surplus with. So they've only really got Vietnam, which I'm going to come to. So what should happen if Trump isn't happy with these other countries? He should be putting those tariffs back up, right? So a journalist asks, when are those tariffs going back up? Do they go back up at the end of the 90 days, which is like pretty much here? Or do they go back up on the 1st of August, which is another date being bandied about? Now, the answer is the 1st of August, but listen to what Trump said, right? Let's just have a listen to this rambling idiot.
Tariff rates, do they change on July 9th or August 1st?
They're going to be tariffs. The tariffs are going to be the tariffs. I think we'll have most countries done by July 9th, yeah. Either a letter or a deal.
But they go into effect on August 1st. Tariffs go into effect August 1st, but the president is setting the rates and the deals right now.
I mean, listen, so Howard Lutnick had to actually answer the question, you notice. Trump couldn't answer it at all. He was asked, are these tariffs going, are they going now or are they going the 1st of August? He just goes, tariffs. Oh, tariffs, tariffs. Yeah, tariffs. We're going to get some deals, you know. Yeah, thanks, Grandpa. So then Howard Lutnick had to step in and go, look, the tariffs are going to apply on the 1st of August, right? So that's when they apply. Now, in terms of some other things, I've got questions. I haven't seen any journalists really joining these things up. So let us just go back to what happened in April. He brought out that board with these massive tariffs for some countries, including Vietnam, where there's now got they have now got a deal. It's a rubbish deal. I'll come on to what that rubbish deal in a minute. But let's just go through the numbers. So there were 57 countries. Now I am just going to point out the EU is classed as one here because Trump has to negotiate with the EU as a whole. So I could say markets, right? It's 57 markets, should we say, but 56 of them are actual countries. 57 markets were earmarked for the higher rate of tax. So that didn't include the UK and Australia and Penguin Island because we were determined that America had a trade surplus with us. So it's like, oh, so you're letting us off then? We're fine, we're cool. No. We still got 10% tariffs. And the reason for that is, of course, because Trump, he talks about using these tariffs as leverage to get better trade deals with the US, but he also sees them as revenue raising, because Trump wants to replace taxes on income with taxes on trade, because tariffs are taxes on trade. It's a tax on trade, which is mad. Because the idea with taxes, obviously the idea of tax is just to make sure your economic system works, right? But when you're deciding how to set the rates, you set them in order to, or when you set them with any thought behind it, you bloody thing keeps doing it. You set them to try and encourage things you want more of. Sorry, my camera's, I'm having to turn my thingy camera on. You set them so that you've got, you encourage the things you want more of and discourage the things you want less of. So the idea of taxing trade, I mean, there's a reason why people generally don't do that. The only time people apply massive tariffs on a country is for the purpose of economic sanctions, because they're trying to discourage whatever behaviour that country is engaged in. But anyway, so 57 countries, right? So then you think to yourself, so for these 50 or 57 markets, that means that right now Trump either has a deal with them or he's going to put the tariffs up, yeah? One or the other. So this is what they've said. Trump has said he reckons he's going to because he says he's going to either put a deal or letters out. He's going to send letters to them saying, we're not happy with you and we're going to put your tariffs up. Or he's getting deals with them. And for some of them, he's saying, I'll give it a bit longer because we're on the right track here. Like, for example, he said he's quite happy with the EU at the moment. The EU, like Canada, seem to be flexible on the digital services tax, which you know what that means. It means next they're going to be coming for us on that. And if Canada and the EU have backed down on it, we're definitely going to. But anyway, never mind that. So in terms of the letters he's sending out, these are the countries he's not happy with. Trump has said he reckons they're going to have to send out 12 to 15 letters. So that's a maximum of 15 letters out of the 57. So that means he's got deals with 42 at least, doesn't it? At least 42, maybe 45. But Scott Bessent, who's their Treasury Minister, he says that they're getting deals with between 15 and 18. Now, we know that we don't count, by the way. The UK deal doesn't count because we were never part of that 57. That's just like an extra. Vietnam is the only one of the 57 where a deal has been announced. And it's for Vietnam, it's a crap deal. Let me tell you what's in this deal. First of all, any American exports to Vietnam will be at zero tariffs. There'll be zero tariffs on American exports to Vietnam. But Vietnamese exports to America will face 20% tariffs. So that's double the 10%. So Vietnam still, it's done a deal and it still gets double the baseline rate. But also there'll be a 40% tariff on transshipments. Now, this is fair enough in a way because transshipments, basically what it is, in this particular case, it'd be from China. So it's stuff that's made in China, right? But a Chinese company sort of mules it to Vietnam and then pretends it's come from Vietnam. That's fair enough, you know, because obviously that's just trying to get around tariffs. The problem is what counts as a transshipment. And that's what's not clear. And so Vietnamese businesses apparently were initially quite pleased with the deal. Oh, well, this is all right. This is all right. We can cope with this. But then they started to think, hang on a minute. How are you going to define transshipments? Because does that count, for example, something that's genuinely made in Vietnam, but the company's a Chinese company? So what counts as a transshipment? So they're now a bit worried again that it actually might be a complete pig's ear of a deal. But that's the only one they've got. Bessent is saying, so Trump is saying there's going to be a maximum of 15 letters. So that means he's pleased with at least 42 of those markets. But Bessent says they're going to get a maximum of 18 deals. So that means there are 24 countries, between those two figures, there are 24 countries that Trump says he's happy with, but Bessent says they're not going to get a deal with. I don't think anyone knows what they're doing here. I'm going to be honest. I don't know what anyone knows what they're doing. Warren Pegan, they say, I wonder what the global economy is going to look like in 4 years' time. I mean, it's already struggled. I mean, let us be honest. The global economy, the British economy certainly, but the global economy in general has struggled since the banking crisis. It's never really recovered from then. Then, of course, we've had other hits to it. COVID, basically the banking crisis destroyed a lot of trust in, banking, apart from anything else, investment banking. And then COVID, of course, knocked people's confidence in like global supply chains, because people realise it's really easy to, like when China had to sort of shut down effectively for a bit, and lots of stuff comes from China, people realise just how dependent we are. But it's not even just about that. You know, if you think about some shipping lanes, particularly through the Gulf, for example, you know, you've got, all you need to do is to have Iran or Houthi rebels or someone attack shipping there and you're in a real trouble. Or just a ship getting stuck somewhere. As that happened in the Suez Canal a few years ago, didn't it? So, yeah, people are now knocked by the fact that global supply chains look a little bit less secure than they used to. And the banking crisis meant that banking's a bit less secure than they used to. So the global economy has already struggled. And yeah, this is like a deliberate assault on it. Weren't they sending out 10 to 15 letters each week over several weeks? Very possibly. But now, I mean, Trump, I mean, these figures make no sense. Another thing they've said as well, so what Trump's saying is they're going to target anyone who does deals with the BRICS groups, which are like your China, India, Brazil type group, trading group. I mean, what he's trying to do here, I suppose, is target trading blocs, because the United States has got by far and away the largest economy. It's the largest market. The only other country that can compete with them is China. That's literally it. No one else comes close. But trading blocs can collectively compete. No trading bloc is as big as America, but they can compete. So the EU is the obvious one. Excuse me. The EU is the biggest. That is the one that is comparable. It's still below the United States and China when it comes to it, but it is comparable. It's in the same league. BRICS is obviously trying to develop along similar lines, and Trump is trying to target it. And it's easy for him to target that. Isn't there? Russia? Yeah, so he's not targeting Russia though, don't worry. The thing is as well, like America does very little trade. It does do trade with Russia. So the fact that Russia gets no tariffs is still, it's not really a head scratch because we know the reason. But there it is. Capable Global there saying, good morning all from sunny and humid Ohio. So you're talking about our brilliant money man, the Orange Goblin. Well, yes, exactly. And no one's asking him this. I want someone to ask him. I know he doesn't generally encourage journalists to ask him awkward questions. I mean, quite frankly, every question's awkward, isn't it? But I want him to answer this. In April, he put up above 10% levels of tariffs on 57 markets. He says he's only going to need to send out between 12 and 15 letters to say that we're not happy with you, we're going to put these tariffs up, right, on 1st of August. So on the 1st of August, he's suggesting that there'll be an increased rate of tariffs on 12 to 15 markets, let's say. Besant says they can get between 15 and 18 deals. That leaves 24 markets. Well, I can say countries because they seem to think they're going to get a deal with the EU. So I can say countries at this point. 24 countries where Trump is not going to send them a letter for raised tariffs, but Besant doesn't think they're going to get a deal. Is one of them wrong? Or do they just not know what's going on? S is South Africa, a country Trump dislikes. Trump dislikes almost all countries. He dislikes almost all. Like, if you think about it, how many countries has Trump expressed a fondness for? The UK is actually one of them. Russia's another. Is that it? I think that's about it. You may think Israel because that's the standard position for a US president, but Israel's on the list. I don't know whether it's going to be getting extra tariffs on the 1st of August, but it was on the original list. It had the higher rate of tariffs originally. And he sworn at them. He used the F-bomb on them. So, admittedly, that's less serious than his other bombs, his bunker buster bombs on Iran, but still. MC, they're saying, what a massive waste of time going over these tariffs in Vietnam. Ordinary folk there can't afford goods from the US. Well, other than the ones they're already buying, I suppose. But, I mean, this is another thing, isn't it? Like, Trump, he blames tariffs for the reason why people aren't buying more American stuff, even though tariffs on American exports virtually everywhere are tiny. And, I remind people about his thing about cars. Well, why aren't people buying American cars? And he had a proper go at Japan. And yet Japan's tariffs on US car imports are zero. They don't, and that's not a new thing. They don't have them. They don't need to put. There's no point in putting tariffs on US cars in Japan. Japanese don't like US cars. Most of the world aren't really that. You'll always find some people in any country that will buy an American car, sure, but most people around the world don't want them. They don't appeal. They only appeal to Americans. Someone's asking about Saudi there, Saudi Arabia. What was Saudi Arabia's? Did they have one? I don't think they had one. No, Saudi Arabia wasn't on the original list that I can see. This is in alphabetical order. It's not on there. So they're, I mean, they'll just keep the, everyone's keeping the 10%. But I mean, if I go down the list, in terms of the major countries that you'd think, it was Pakistan. Actually, was Pakistan on? Because yeah, they were on. They're developing a pretty good relationship with Trump, so I'm assuming they're going to be on one of the lists that gets a deal with them. The Philippines, I've no idea. South Africa, South Korea. South Korea, he did talk in the early days, if you remember, because there was that period of time where Trump said he was going to stop. He was going to stop trade talks with the UK because we were holding out over things like food standards and the digital services tax. And he said, well, we're just going to talk to you. South Korea, they're much more ready to do a deal. Well, there still isn't a South Korean deal, but they may be one of them. They may be one of them. Business Cat saying, Japan drives on the left like us, prefer small cars, neither of which the US produces. Yeah. I mean, the US will happily, I'm sure, produce a right-hand drive car, but yeah, it's just these massive monsters that America seems to like, or a lot of Americans seem to like these huge monsters. It's like, we don't want them. They consume too much fuel. They're too heavy. We don't need these. They kill people as well. I mean, it's bad enough we have SUVs in this country. Chelsea tractors, as they're sometimes called. And they're getting worse. But anyway, go through some more comments. Is there any authority in the US actually collecting these tariffs from US companies that import these goods? Do they even know from day one to the next what rate to apply to what? Well, this is a very good question, because for most of this period of time, the answer has been no. The answer has actually been, despite the fact, remember in the early days, Trump claimed he was collecting massive amounts of money from these tariffs. No, he wasn't, because no one knew what was going on. Because he would announce tariffs, but no one really knew when they were to come into effect. Then he would announce a pause on the tariffs, but no one knew when that was coming into effect. So actually, yeah, no, you're quite right. The people who were supposed to be collecting these tariffs had no idea what to collect or when. So a lot of it, I think, was just going through. But I imagine the situation, it is now clearer. It is clearer. It is now known what the tariff rates are. Because Trump couldn't answer the question because he's away with the fairies. But Howard Lutnick was able to answer that the new tariffs will come online on the 1st of August, but that they are being announced this week. I mean, he said the president's working on them now. I assume that means they're going to announce them this week. So that does mean that, the authorities in, port authorities in America and tax authorities will know what the situation should be on the 1st of August. Unlike when he first started this nonsense off, where no one knew anything that was going on. Dave there saying it's the old adage, when America sneezes, the UK catches a cold, the whole world catches a cold is the saying as well. And we will. The whole world will. Because America is a huge part, it's the engine, along with China, I suppose, of global trade. You can't really do anything. Dave's sort of sorry about the ads. They are apparently much better, though. It's probably because you're watching on a phone, I'm afraid. Sorry. But I need to trial them out because apparently YouTube have changed the way they're done. Seeing Trump repeatedly postpone his own economic disasters, like standing with a person holding a grenade and they're threatening to blow us both up, then they keep getting close but taco. Well, that's another thing, isn't it? Like, will he really stick to it? I mean, you look at, even Vietnam, there's surely a lot of stuff. Because again, if we think about it in terms of who it affects, so if you think about ordinary struggling Americans, the ones that are minded to support MAGA, right? All of those cheap Chinese imports, we'll say, but some of them will come from Vietnam. So even this Vietnam deal, it's 20% tariffs, when it used to be not quite zero, but it used to be very, very low. So it's 20% tariffs on Vietnamese goods. and 40% on anything that the US government considers a transshipment, which might include something genuinely made in Vietnam, but by a Chinese company. Because obviously, I mean, this happens. This is normal. If you're a Chinese company and China is facing, I mean, in terms of his original tariffs, 34%, but China have got a carve out for themselves. So you set up in Vietnam, which has got a lower rate of tariffs, but it's still a Vietnamese. It's still, the stuff's still being made in Vietnam. It's just that it's by a Chinese company. So yes, some profits will go back to China, but it's not been made in China. So that shouldn't count as a transshipment. But there's a worry that it will be. That, you know, where's the line? The line is not clearly drawn in Sharpie or anything else. Will there say, I didn't realise this, the 3 highest imports by USA from Russia by far: fertilisers, non-ferrous metals, inorganic chemicals, some total $2.5 billion. Yeah, it's not really not very much at all. It wouldn't be that much anyway, even without the sanctions. Because, I mean, all the thing is as well, in terms of those particular things, remember, all Russia doesn't make anything that anyone wants. When Russia developed into an oligarchy, what happened, and what we mean by oligarchy, it's not just very wealthy people owning everything, or that is ultimately what it means. But in terms of Russian oligarchy specifically, what happened was Putin rewarded his baron, because they're basically barons, it's a monarchy really. So he rewarded his barons with companies, just, you know, Gazprom and others. He just gave them to people because they were his supporters, but they didn't know how to run those industries. So you have people running these industries in Russia and they don't know how to run those industries. We had the same thing when Zimbabwe gained independence, and Robert Mugabe just said, you know, and there's a sense in which it's absolutely fair enough to redistribute wealth, but what he did is he just took farms off white farmers who knew how to farm and gave it to black people who weren't farmers. They didn't know how, they might have been farm hands, but they didn't know how to farm. And then all of a sudden they couldn't grow anything because the people trying to farm the land didn't know how to farm. So then Zimbabwe ended up with no pissing food. So, and a similar thing has happened in Russia. Well, Russia also have no pissing food. So, yeah, they don't know how to make anything, really. I mean, they know how to make weapons, but no one wants to buy their weapons, right? Iran, okay, Iran wants some of them. Although mostly, actually, it's Russia buying Iranian weapons rather than the other way around. So all they can do is dig stuff out the ground. So yeah, when you're talking about, like, you know, the things that are being supplied, things like metals, you know, metals, fossil fuel, stuff like that, all they can sell really in any great quantity is stuff they dig out of the ground, because they can't make anything. It's all shit because the people running their industries don't know how to do it. And Trump wants to do that with America. That's what he wants to do to America. He wants to hand everything over to his oligarchs for, you know, for their loyalty, and they don't know how to run it. They don't know how to make good quality stuff. I mean, there was another article in The Guardian. The Guardian have been really chasing this about Teslas. I mean, I still get people now trying to tell me that Teslas, oh yeah, but never mind what Musk is, Teslas are actually really good cars. It's like, they're not. They're death traps. They're absolute death traps. They've killed so many people. And some of it's directly linked to Musk. For example, one of the features that's like one of the biggest killers of a Tesla, it's all right, the automatic driver just suddenly sending you into a tree. That happens. But even when first responders get there and they try and get people out of the car, they can't. They can't open the door. Why not? Because retractable handles. Retractable handles. Why? No engineer thought this was a good idea. This was Musk going, that, do you know what would be cool? Retractable handles. Why would a retractable handle while you're driving be cool? Why? Who's going to see it? The driver's not going to see it. It's on the outside. No one. And you're driving past people. No one's going to look at a Tesla as it drives past and go, oh, that I couldn't see the handle. Absolute lunatics. And Musk is by far and away not the stupidest oligarch that Trump has. But anyway, Vince there say, I think this is about American cars again, don't fit on European or Japanese roads. Oh yeah, a big old gas guzzling American car would struggle on some of our country lanes. Yeah, yeah. Any car struggles on them. I can't drive down them if my wife's in the car. She's very nervous in a car. Um, she nearly cried one time when I got lost. We went on holiday a couple of years ago. I'm not doing that again. I went on holiday, and my sat nav tried to kill us. It sent us down this little road, and she nearly cried. Honestly, a big car would get stuck. But anyway, sorry, where was I? Comments. So it mean 2.5 billion is peanuts, but maybe no tariff for Russia is one, to not draw attention to the fact USA still buys from Russia. Two, because USA really needs those three resources and Russia's the only source. You can argue that if you want, but we know the real reason, and that is because Trump is pals with Russia. Like, why aren't Russia applying more swinging? Like Mike Graham has a package of sanctions for Russia, which won't hurt America's needs, because actually what they'll do is target other countries. They would target other countries doing deals with Russia, but they won't go through with them because Trump doesn't want to do anything. Russia, the largest arms supplier to Africa, including both sides in the war in Sudan, South Sudan. Oh, I mean, of course. You supply weapons to whoever wants to use them. There's no point in restricting yourself to just one customer in a war, is there? But yeah, that is pretty much in terms of what they manufacture. I think, I'm not an expert, but I'm pretty sure that's pretty much all Russia makes that anyone else wants. Weapons. Would never drive a Tesla. It's bad enough staying away from Cybertrucks on my drive to work. Okay, well, we fortunately don't have those over here, because I don't understand why anyone wants a Cybertruck. I really do struggle with the concept, because first of all, they look utterly ridiculous, right? They look like a skip. That's what they look like. They look ridiculous. They don't look futuristic. They look ridiculous. If they look a little bit maybe like something in Mad Max, which is supposed to be a dystopian future. But again, just thinking about it, because so I think to myself, but it's a muscle car, right? So it's designed to appeal to people that are into muscle cars. But people into muscle cars are into like roaring engines, gas-powered roaring engines, aren't they? The sort of people who, in this country, I bet they do it in America as well, if you've got a car with a powerful engine, but it's an efficient engine, but they want it, so they install things into the exhaust to make it pop. A bit like with Formula One. So when Formula One engines became really efficient again, they found that they weren't making enough noise, but people like the roar of the engine. So Formula One cars are now designed to artificially create noise. It's not noise that's anything to do with the engine. It's just designed, they're artificially creating noise. Because that's what so you've got these people. So these are the people that want it. So then you have a Cybertruck, which is electric. And you just think, how does that marry up? There is a sense in which I think, that there is a sense in which Elon Musk is an effective marketer in many ways. Because I can't picture the sort of person who wants a Cybertruck. I can't form an image of them in my head. Because if you like electric cars, you surely don't like muscle cars. Cybertruck always looked to me like the taxi Johnny Cab from the 1990 Total Recall film, except slightly worse, except much worse. I don't get the appeal at all in any way, shape or form. And then you consider some of the design defects in it. There's two at least I know, and I'm not a big fan of cars at all. But, even I'm aware of two massive defects. One of them is that someone thought it was a good idea to have the side panels just glued on, so they randomly come off on the road sometimes. And the second one, I watched a video. So the automatic closing boot, trunk in America. And they did this experiment with loads of different cars with like this, you know, this automatic closing boot stroke trunk. And they put like a cucumber in the way as if it was like fingers trapped. Every single car model came down, came in contact with the cucumber, went back up again. Cucumber, back up again. Tesla Cybertruck, bang. Cucumber cut in half, which is your fingers if they get trapped in there. It's like, so Musk obsesses over things like retractable handles, which nobody will ever notice. How could they notice? They're only retracted when the car is in motion. So the driver can't see it. The passengers can't see it. People on the outside aren't going to see it because it's driving past them. Ridiculous. And yet, basic things like, can we make sure... I mean, maybe Musk thinks people don't need their fingers if they buy a Tesla because it'll just drive itself. What do you need fingers for? But utterly ridiculous. Anyway, we seem to have gone completely off topic here. We've gone from talking about Trump to his mortal enemy now, Musk, haven't we? We'll still have to find that one out, won't we? Anyway, so all emperors closed, rubbish, obvious the normal folk. Yeah, but I still don't get how they make Cybertrucks commercial. I don't get it. I mean, but it is what it is. But we'll leave it there anyway. I don't know how. I don't know. It's my fault. I've done something. I don't know how we ended up talking about Trump's trade war and end up on Elon Musk's rubbish cars. Actually, I do remember it was to do with Japanese, American cars in Japan, wasn't it? But there we go. We'll leave it there. Have a great rest of day. And until next time, I'll see you later.